All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy.
In 1978, when disco was on top,
I'm making it.
these guys partied to a different beat.
No more.
Hours from now, we're actually gonna be seeing Kiss, baby!
Don't you know what KISS stands for? Knights in Satan's service.
We just watched Jam's mom torch our Kiss tickets!
Nobody's missing that concert tomorrow night.
We're not stealing my mom's car.
Damn right we are.
The night is young, filled with possibilities.
Yes?
Hey, you little twerps. Give me your Kiss tickets or I'll pop your faces in.
Kiss sucks! You're the coolest.
Detroit Rock City.
It's a girl walking along the side of the highway. We should pull over and help her out. I mean, they make scary movies that start out like that.
Hey, but they make porno movies that start out like that too, man.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. I'm your host, Julian Gill. Today we've got the full panel here. We've got Marcus Almighty Mark.
Greetings.
St. Louis Kiss Lonnie.
What's up?
69th Blizzard Ken.
Hello.
And the Wheeze Daniel.
Hi, Julian.
We're going to be celebrating, or at least in memoriam, marking that a day of infamy in history when the Detroit Rock City movie came out in 1999. It's celebrating its 25th anniversary, and by celebrating, we're going to use that very broadly as part of this discussion today. We're going to try and pick out some of our favorite scenes from the movie, some of the high points from it, but obviously we're going to have to talk about some of the other matters. Before we get into talking about Detroit Rock City, I would like to just check around the table, see if anyone's bought any new Kiss shit this week, because obviously Ken, you're modeling style.
Oh my! This is that the Dynasty thing, the puke one. Yeah,
it's my grass cutting T-shirt.
That came with this. Or no, it came with this.
Came with the other one. Yeah.
This one here.
So you got yours. Did yours arrive in good shape, or did you have any bent corners that have you torturing small animals? Because that seems to be the point of contention.
This one has
a foil poster.
Dent.
A bent corner right up there. Anyway,
It's a little bit. A pack, do they?
But yeah, you know what do you want? I guess they jammed it into the box too tight.
I don't take so much issue with that. I did post on the board. I got mine, and there's a couple of minor imperfections. And like coin collecting, it's still mint state. It's not been in, someone hasn't bought it, put it in a store, been handled by dozens of people. It's only been molested by the postal services. So there's really no way around that. So as long as it's not broken in half or folded into a mailbox. And for anyone who saw that image on the FAQ post, that is not my mailbox. That is just I grabbed off the internet. It's been a busy week for the FAQ podcast in general. Obviously, Thursday episode went up with Mike Brandvold from Three Sides. We go back in time on that episode, over 2-hour conversation. I've known Mike for a very long time, so it was nice just to have a sit down, not promoting anything, just talking about getting into, doing web stuff. So if you're so inclined, check out that episode. We also did another Inner Sanctum episode, but this time we had a guest. One of the criticisms from the 1980 show was that we weren't actually there, therefore we can't have an opinion on it. Which I think's bullshit, But we did get someone who went to the Santiago 1994 show to join us to talk about that video. And
I can really recommend that episode. I think that guy was great.
Yeah, Claudio is absolutely fantastic. Obviously, he did the cover art for Master Hysteria, but he also has his own art-based series with Dennis Willock, who did all the covers for
really
Kiss
good.
albums. I think 1976 through
It was
87 or 88.
Alive to Crazy Nights.
Yeah, a very long span of their core catalog. So if you don't want to watch Inner Sanctum, at least go check out Claudio's series because it's well worth it.
Can I say something? While I haven't gotten to the one that you did with Michael Brandville yet, I would like to recommend your Hot in the Shade episode that just dropped that you did was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I sat down with that one from beginning to end and enjoyed every second of that one. So I would highly recommend that one if anybody hasn't listened to that one yet.
Well, if the only place people are listening to that are on YouTube, you're one of only a very few to check that out, which is a shame because there's a lot of information that people had no fucking clue about. And so you want to know what songs Gene had on the table for Killers, you won't find out anywhere else right now other than on that podcast. So do head over to the Kiss Army Sweden Let Me Know podcast and check it out. And check out the other Hot in the Shade episodes that are going to be coming out because the guys are on break and they bring in a few other people to keep episodes going during the summer. Daniel and Mark did one last year, I think, or Mark did one last year. Daniel, you're the Swede. Why am I talking about Sweden? Tell us about the podcast.
The Let Me Know podcast, they invite people to record episodes during August when they go on vacation. Last year, me and Mark did an appreciated podcast about the Kiss riffs, which started our series. We've done a few for the KissFAQ podcast as well. We just play around playing our favorite Kiss riffs and discuss them. It's lots of fun. Yes. This year, Julian started off the summer season with this great episode. I think it's about Michael James Jackson and the Creatures era. It has a lot to do with your upcoming release, War Machine.
Cancelled release.
Cancelled?
Yeah, I'm not bothering with it for now. What? The 5-volume book. There's a 5-volume book that came out that just covers everything. I'm just going to wait. I'm not going to put the time into it for the time being.
All that effort, all the time that you put into that, are you just gonna let it?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. I hope you release it because when we talked about your previous book, me, Ken, and I think it was Mark, we discussed it, and we really enjoyed that book, Mask Hysteria, and I think this would be a great follow up to that one. You have the elder book, Mask Hysteria, about 80, 81, and then you'd have this one. So it's a great trilogy. Actually, Ken had some great ideas about you doing a Dynasty book as well. But we'll see what happens in the future. Well,
yeah, I'm sure one of the unofficial people who want to put out just books ripping everything off under the sun will get to Dynasty as well, because that one's ripe for that sort of treatment. I actually do have a couple hundred pages done on the Dynasty one, but for now, I'm just not putting the effort into those sorts of things anymore because it's just not really worth it, to be perfectly honest. Let's get into today's show topics, and I just want to welcome everyone who's joining us live. Earth Dog, Ronnie Parker, Opal Archive, Bill Phelps, Adam, North Carolina, Robert Miller, Josh Hefner, David LaPrade Jr. LaPrade. Sorry, I had to think about that one briefly. But Lonnie's got a hard stop today, so we got to get into talking about Detroit Rock City 98 or 99, pardon me. I got to start with Ken, though, as someone who was an original card-holding member of the Kiss Army. We're here to celebrate Detroit Rock City. So as someone who saw Phantom, what were your expectations 20 years later when Kiss said, hey, guys, we're going to do it again, but this time we're not going straight to TV. We're going straight to Best Buy cutout bins. No, we're going straight to theatrical. We're going bigger and badder.
Yes.
Yeah, well, when I first, I was excited about it when I heard about it. I didn't know how much, Kiss would maybe be in it or not be in it. But anything with Kiss at that time period, because the excitement was still there after the 96 reunion, and it's a few years later after that. So Yeah, I was excited for something because you didn't get a lot of movies that had any Kiss content or anything like that. I mean, yeah, especially since way back. I think it was mentioned on this chat here that about Dazed and Confused, which that's a movie that I love to watch over and over. So I was hoping this would be something like that, or a little bit similar in a way. It was to a good degree and was not. There's a lot of excitement. I think I liked the movie though, even after watching it just yesterday again. I liked it when the first time I watched it. But I think as I've grown older or as time has gone by, it's really gone down for me. I really don't enjoy it as much as I did when I first saw it. So yeah, I was excited. I think it was cool. At least you got something out there kind of promoting Kiss in a way, and then having Kiss music in it, here and there and that sort of stuff.
All right, way to keep it positive. Lonnie, this was your Phantom. You were a youngster. You're probably, I think you're probably the youngest one of us back then. So this was your moment. How did you take to the prospective release of a movie?
It was my Phantom. I was 20 years old when this came out. Really, I mean, I just turned 20 years old. I was getting ready to go in the police academy at the time. I was super young, and I was ready to go for it. And I remember I was so excited about it. I remember like the hype leading up to it. There was a lot of hype leading up to this movie with the VH1 special when Kiss played the night before, and so did Cheap Trick. They got the star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame that weekend. There was a lot of Kiss hype going on. It was very reunion tour-esque, which was only 3 years prior, but there was a lot of Kiss media hype. The trailers were on TV, constantly for it too. There was a lot of publicity moving up for this show, for this movie. And I remember being so excited to go see it, and wearing my Kiss Army hat, my Kiss T-shirt, and walking into the theater thinking, man, I hope we get good seats. And there's like 3 other people in there, and my shoulders just, I was just like, oh no. But I will get into that, but I'm with Ken in that I loved it at the time, though. It was my Phantom. I walked out of there like, yeah, it was great. I loved it at the time. But 25 years later, it hasn't aged well for me. It just hasn't aged well. There's a lot of parts in it that are very cringeworthy today that I didn't find cringeworthy 25 years ago. So.
You know what? We all had to rewatch Detroit Rock City for this episode. So, I hope to feel a little bit of love from our audience today that we have actually put ourselves out there and put ourselves through that again. Mark, as a Canadian, you guys got the concert scene filmed at Cop Stadium. What were your thoughts on Detroit Rock City back in the day? Did you have a positive sense of anticipation, or?
Well, I mean, I was in a band at the time with what I think I mentioned before. His name was Ted. He's probably the biggest Kiss guy fan I've ever known. He's that guy that has the unmasked poster framed in his living room over his fireplace, and his wife had no say in the matter. He was that big of a Kiss fan. Okay, so we were all rearing to go to this. So we ended up going to it, and much like Lonnie's experience, Ted was convinced it was going to be packed house, and there was like 2 people besides us. It was absolutely dead in there. Now, when we watched it, we enjoyed it. Being Kiss fans and stuff like that. We were loving it just because it was a Kiss movie. We were disappointed about one thing. I mean, if you look at the poster that came out with the movie, they had, starring Ed Furlong, and it had Kiss, like this, Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons. So you're thinking to yourself, hey, they're going to be in the movie? And there was like absolutely no showing of them at all, except at the end of the movie, which was kind of disappointing for us. We thought there might be some appearance of them in there, kind of like Phantom, right? Because we knew about Phantom back then. I mean, it wasn't like some mysterious thing at the time for us, right? But after watching it again now recently, just a couple of days ago when I was watching it, it hasn't aged well, but I'll tell you one thing. For me personally, I had a little bit more of a better reception to it because I kind of, and this might be embarrassing to admit, but I kind of found that those four guys reminded me a lot of my band, to be honest with you. Like how we did a lot of the same stupid shit that those guys did, getting into cars, smoking up, and making fun of people on the highway, like those kind of things. Believe me, this is not just made up shit. Lots of people, bands, at least my band, we did, similar. We didn't throw a pizza at someone's windshield, but we did, similar sort of, foolish things when we were younger. So looking back at it, and especially at the rehearsal thing in the guy's house, that was a total flashback for me because we used to do that all the time, practicing on my friend's house in his basement and stuff. So I had a slightly better remembrance of that movie because of those scenes, because it reminded me a lot of my teenage and younger days too. So it wasn't as bad a watch for me, but there's obviously cringy parts in there.
Yeah, I think you make a good point that unlike Phantom, they were smart not to try and have the members of KISS as actors carrying a movie, whether it was going to be soon to DVD or theatrical or whatever. So at least in that sense, one lesson had been learned from Phantom. Daniel, from across the snowy mountains.
Yeah. Up there in Scandinavia, killing reindeer and polar bears. Yeah, I watched it this morning, and I have to say I bumped it up a bit on my IMDb to a 5 out of 10. Previously, I had rated it a 4, so a 5 isn't that bad. It's pretty. It's like I took a look, and From Dusk Till Dawn was a 5. Interview with a Vampire was a 5 for me. Star Wars Episode 3, Lonnie, Revenge of the Sith, a 5. So it's somewhere around there. And I think my big problem with this movie is that I think it's solid 2/3. Until they lose their tickets, and then it goes completely bonkers. I mean, what the hell? The final third of the movie is really bad, but the first 2/3 are great. Not great, but watchable, and I enjoyed it. And it made you feel, that feeling when you go to a KISS concert with your friends. I mean, they managed to capture that, but the final third of the movie is a disaster, I think. When every guy is supposed to find a girl, so there's a bank robbery, there's some crazy stuff where he likes he managed to get a bunch of dogs to follow him, and they attack the bad guys. I mean, it's completely bonkers, the final third. So I think it was a bit unfortunate that they didn't manage to make the final third of the movie as good as the two
beginning?
2/3 of the movie. Oh, I'm getting all messed up with all the numbers here. Yeah. So I think it's an okay movie, but they failed towards the end, unfortunately. And but there's some great parts, great stuff in the movie that I enjoyed, and I laughed a bunch of times this morning. I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, so there was obviously the theatrical release. There's also a work print that I don't know whether it circulates or not, that's got an extra 10 minutes of footage. One of the things that I find is that they actually did a good job of editing a lot of the crap that was edited out of that work print, down, and really just focusing on these like little stories, like, okay, here are the KISS fans pulling into Detroit. That's a scene. All right, here's, mom taking KISS tickets or concert tickets. It doesn't have to be anything like that. They took a real potpourri of just kind of life events and threw them into a blender for a movie. I mean, it was almost like a Gene Simmons brainstorm session of what would the fans have gone through seeing us in 1978. Okay, a kid gets chased by dogs. A kid manages to sneak into a concert and act as a roadie, but he drops the bass drum and it rolls down a ramp and knocks into a wall of amps, shorting things out. Kid in the ceiling of a strip club watching, or backstage watching girls in a jacuzzi. It's got all these like little vignettes, but throughout it's got a whole bunch of very kind of awkward scenes as well. I've never liked the scene at the Catholic school. I just thought that was unnecessary kind of dig at that sort of thing for the American market. It could have been done in a much kind of different way without labeling any religions as such. Though anyone who went to Catholic school in their youth certainly kind of knows that side of things. I'll never send my kid to Catholic school.
But I think that's one of the main conflicts in the movie. It's freedom versus religion. So I think the parts with the church is, I think some of those parts are really good, because and at times they mention when Christianity goes well overboard, like Jonestown is mentioned at one point. And as you see, the best, the most fun actor in this, or actress in this movie, is probably that mom. And she's completely Christian, and but she chain smokes, and it looks like she wants to shag the minister or the priest or whatever it's called. So it's this thing about freedom versus religion. And I'm kind of surprised that they went so hard against religion when we all know that America is such a religious country.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point, is that it lost its comedic edge by being a little bit more brittle. Now,
I think it's real fun.
Kiss had long had an issue, with the religious protests about Satanism and all that at the concerts. 83, 78, 77, 76, even 74, they were mentioned in that context. But,
I just have to mention, a great scene is when that religious mother takes the kids' concerts, put them on fire, and lights her cigarette, because, that I think that was one of the best scenes.
All right, let's go around with some of our favorite scenes from it, because we're not picking this thing apart in terms of critiquing it. I think we've done an episode ragging on it. Let's hear the best scenes that really jumped out at you when you rewatched it in 2024. And I got to start with Lonnie.
Well, one of my favorite scenes, I guess, is it's very relatable. You guys talk about the mom. My mom hated Kiss when I was growing up. So I think that, like,
she's great.
Yeah. Her, like, drinking her wine and listening to the Carpenters. Like, this opening scene of the movie, it just reminded me of my mother so much, because she hated Kiss. She hated, she looked at the record and she goes, "Kiss, the devil's music." I mean, my mom thought they were satanic and they were this, they were that. That's one of my favorites, because it's that character is very relatable to my mother. So I think that like her just freaking out, like what is that noise at the very beginning, with her drinking her wine and having to listen to Kiss unwillingly, is it's something I could relate to from the jump of the movie, and just hooked me from the beginning. That's one of my favorite scenes, even though she's the only one in it.
Yeah, trying to get that plug out. Shaking the stereo, but the song's still playing like that needle.
The record never skips.
Yeah, exactly. Ken, one of your favorite scenes, and we're just going to go around with favorite scenes.
It's kind of, it ties into that. I mean, I agree with Lonnie, because that, well, the funny thing about that is, I was a Carpenters fan before a Kiss fan, actually. So I like the Carpenters. I still do like the Carpenters. I still like a lot of great music that they did. But I thought that was kind of funny when that whole scene happened. But right after that, the cool scene for me is the opening credits. Yeah. It's probably the best part of the whole movie, is the opening credits, especially because it's the time period of that I lived through. where they show all these things, pictures and news and
relatable moments,
clips from that period of time. You know, actors, the Fonz and so on. You know, Nixon, the whole thing. I could really relate to it because I was like, oh, I lived that, all of that. So I thought that was so cool. And then they're playing, you know, obviously the Kiss music, Love Gun, I think it is at that time. So yeah, it was that thing was just cool. It's all just full on Kiss. So I was excited. After seeing that, I thought, oh man, this movie is gonna be freaking the greatest movie ever, you know. And then it kind of it didn't live up to that. But that was the best thing for me of the whole movie. The best scene, I guess you could call it. It's not necessarily a scene; it's an intro. So,
did the Carpenters scene offend you?
Did they do what?
Did that opening scene offend you? The light music that you thought that she was going to be playing, and then Kiss plays. Was it like mocking you inside? That no, that's good music. Don't make fun of that.
Yeah. No, it didn't bother me so much. I knew what they were trying to do there, so it doesn't bother me at all.
All right, Mark, give us one of your favorite scenes.
Well, one of my favorite scenes, hands down, was because again, it kind of goes back to something being relatable to myself, and of course, this is nothing to be bragging about, of course, but back in your youth when you were younger, you did lots of stupid things, but getting into mushrooms was one of the things that we used to do back in the day too. And that scene with the pizza with the priest was absolutely when that happened. Me and my friend Ted looked at each other and just burst into laughter because as soon as he mentioned the dry mushroom, we knew right away what was going to happen next because we enjoyed our mushrooms back in the day too. But that scene was just absolute gold. Like just how he realized that Satan and Santa were just one letter different. That whole thing that just cracked me right up too when you said that. But yeah, I mean, again, for movies like this to hit you here in the heart, they have to have a connection with something that you've done in the past. Like lots of people can relate to Dazed and Confused, that movie, because in the 70s, there's a lot of things that people can look back at and say, shit, I remember doing that or this happening or that. And it's the same thing in these kind of movies, I mean, unfortunately, it would have been a better movie than Detroit Rock City, but there was lots of parts in it, like I said, that I found relatable to it, and that scene there was to me comic gold, and for the reasons why I can totally relate to what was happening in that scene.
All right, yeah, I can't say I have any experience of mushrooms, so we'll have to take your word for it. Thank you, Daniel.
Well, I have to piggyback a little bit on Lonnie and Ken because I think that opening scene is one of the best things in the movie. And I Stole Your Love sounds so cool when it goes on that stereo or that vinyl. But I think we have to give a shout out to Lynn Shane, who's playing the mother, that actor. Actually, I think she kind of repeats her role from, if you remember that movie, There's Something About Mary. She was in that one as well. It's sort of the same role she's playing, and she does it fantastically. I mean, she's awesome. So I think through the movie, she's one of the high points. She's always spot on, almost, until she's so easily convinced by her son at the end. That's so unrealistic. But as I said, I like 2/3 of the movie. I think the 2/3 are real good, but the final third is a catastrophe because they need to hurry things up, and it feels like so unrealistic. But I think the opening scene is really cool. But I could also add that janitor, the Elvis lookalike, or Elvis / Wolverine, because he adds to this conflict between adults and youth, and I think it's kind of cool. He's sort of a representative for old rock and roll, Elvis, but now it's the new times. Now it's time to go and listen to Love Gun and Kiss. So I like it when that janitor is trying to get them and they fool him.
Yeah, I'm with Lonnie and Ken on the opening. The opening sequence is actually very well done. And unfortunately, it sets the tone for the movie that the rest of the movie isn't able to sustain. But then again, it's such a great sequence. Daniel, you picked one of mine. One of my favorite scenes is actually from the outtakes, and on the DVD, there's a menu for the deleted scenes, and Elvis from this scene. I'm going to play this one just because I love this part, because as Mark did with the mushrooms, we relive parts of our youth.
I know it's not me. It's got to be this guy over here. But excuse me, ladies. Kiss concert, huh? Kiss my ass concert, more like. Shame you'll be too busy in a nice fat detention tonight instead of being at the show.
Fuck you, Elvis.
It kind of reminds me of that guy in the Twisted Sister videos from '84.
Yeah. What do you want to do with your life?
Yeah.
Right. You know, the only thing missing from there is Godzilla, Blue Oyster Cult, as he goes stalking off. Because I think every school or public school in the States had like a resource officer back in the 70s and 80s who was there to catch you if you were skiving, skipping class, or smoking in the bathrooms. I mean, we had a guy at Vestal High School called the Snowman. He was our Elvis, and you know the number of times that he would catch me smoking in the boys' room. No Motley Crue reference
Smoking
there.
in the boys' room.
Or coming back from skipping out of a class or a free period and going down to McDonald's or the gas station to buy cigarettes. He was always like that. He was always coming around the hall just at the moment that you were doing evil or thinking about doing evil. So he, as Daniel says, is actually a really kind of comedic but good foil in that part of the story. And again, I love that edited scene which you can watch on the DVD that was removed from the cut. Lonnie, let's go back to you for another one of your favorites.
It's a short scene, but it's relatable in that when they're going back down the elevator, when they go get the tickets, and they tell them that no, sorry, we had to give them to the next caller. And the four of them are just in the elevator going back down, and the one's just like, "You motherfucker, I can't take it anymore," just to attack him. I think that's relatable. That we've all just been pissed off at a buddy or a friend so much, like, I can't take it. I'm just gonna beat the shit out of you at this point. I'm so pissed off at you. Like, no words, just the attack. I lost it in the theater when that happened, and I still laugh every time when I watch it happen. It's very, very relatable. We all get, to that extent, pissed off at a friend, even though you still love them.
You know what's so funny is the scene right before that when they're doing the playback of the call. What sort of moron would hang up? I mean, it must be one of those things that happens to a ton of radio stations back in the day, that they were always giving out concert tickets, and you could just bet there were tons of kids who got super excited and I won, click before giving their details. Talk about heartbreaking. Mark, another one of your favorite scenes.
Well, one of the scenes that I, again, this is totally relatable, from my youth, was the scene where the three of the guys are at the school already waiting, and then the school bus pulls up, and the drummer guy comes out with the new school clothing on, and they start laughing at him how he's wearing he goes, "Nice clothes, dickhead," with the kind of, he's wearing the new Sears, latest geeky Sears clothing there. I remember that to this day, like doing the same thing with some of our friends. The parents that made you wear the most ridiculous looking clothes on the first day of school, and we just started making fun of him as he came out of the bus. I mean, sure, it was probably not the nicest thing to do, but when you're young, you do that kind of shit all the time, right? But man, when I saw that, I remembered so many times when that actually happened at my school too, where you would just see the person come out and you knew that they were like fighting tooth and nail with their parents an hour before, not to put on this ridiculous sweater or this stupid pants that they made them wear to school. And that was cool. See, what I do appreciate about this movie is those little things like that you know that they were doing that happened in real life. Maybe the editor guy or the story writer guy had the same thing happen to him when he was younger. You know what I mean? So, and he put it in the movie, and it's very. I find that sort of accurate and very, very good sort of writing.
Yeah, that touched a nerve with me because I was that guy when I finished middle school and moved from Catholic school to public school, and my mother made me wear corduroys on my first day of high school in public school in September in upstate New York, where it was hot and muggy. You're wearing corduroys. It was painful. Daniel.
Well, I enjoyed that scene when Edward Furlong and his band is rehearsing. It's early in the movie, maybe the second or third scene, with their band Mystery, and the S is of course like a bolt, like the Kiss S is, and they're playing "I Want to Rock and Roll All Night," and it takes me back when I was, rehearsing with my friends playing Kiss songs. And then the singer, between songs speaks, "Oh, we're gonna go back and fuck some groupies." Thank you, Cleveland. That sort of takes me back to back in the day when we rehearsed. You go all in and you think you're going to be a star, and you mimic your heroes. And I think it was a great scene, and it was also fun to hear them play Rock and Roll All Night. It sounded kind of fun.
Yeah. All right, Ken.
Yeah, there's another thing in there where after they pick up that girl, the hitchhiking
disco girl,
that was part of the Trans Am. Christine.
Yeah,
and they're talking about disco, and she says, disco's so big that I'm Kiss is gonna do probably gonna do a
Kiss will never
like, no effing way we're gonna do the Kiss will never do that. I thought that was funny. It's like, oh yeah.
I like that.
That's what everyone would have thought back then.
Yeah,
it's like there's no way Kiss would have ever done that. But sure enough, they actually pulled one and did it. So I thought that was kind of funny.
That made my list, and
mine
so
as
did,
well.
Yeah, so did Daniel's about Mystery jamming in the basement. Again, on the work print, they have a longer version of that, and I've actually got I think it's a 4-minute version of the song in its entirety, all of its glory of that horrendous jam band cover.
Yeah.
But the basement jam session really is a great scene because, again, I remember that from my youth. I also remember the drama of spilt bong water. And I also remember the futility, but in our minds as feral, delusional youth.
Madison Square Garden.
No, of thinking we could hide the smell of cigarettes or other things that have been burned with Lysol or deodorant. Yeah. Oh, yeah, mom's not going to smell that. Maybe if I rub some toothpaste on she won't smell that I've been drinking or smoking. Yeah, like parents didn't know all the sins that you were committing, but you thought, oh, yeah, I'll just spray a little bit of that and it'll hide it.
Mom and Dad are so dumb, they'll never know.
Yeah, Mom and Dad don't have a clue. What a bunch of idiots. All right, Lonnie, your next favorite scene.
I just like them driving in the car on the way. Just it's not necessarily a specific moment from it, but I do like just the four guys in the car, the feel of driving to the Kiss show. Because my brother and I, we did that so many times, driving from here to Chicago or from here to Kansas City or Memphis or wherever to go see the band, and the vibe him and I had in the car, just driving to go see it, being so excited that, hours from now, we're actually going to be seeing Kiss type thing. That, Kiss is touring. I don't care that they're not coming here. We're still going to go to a show. Or Kiss is touring. They did come here, but we're going to go to another show because we can't get enough. Because it's our favorite band and it's what we do together. I just enjoyed that vibe of them in the car together, talking about their favorite band and the energy that is captured in that scene of making that pilgrimage to go to another city to see him, because I think that's very relatable to Kiss fans, because I mean, you go to a show and it's not just people from that city. I mean, people will travel from wherever to go see Kiss. I think that's one thing that they did very well.
Yep, nailed it. Nicely put. Mark, what about you? Your next scene.
Well, one of the things that I found great humor in was the whole strip club scene when Furlong went in there, and of course one of the greatest icons of our time, Mr. Ron Jeremy, who was the DJ of that, the master. That there cracked me right up, because who doesn't know who Ron Jeremy is, number one, and number two, him being the whole head of that, and his dancing moves during the thing was just
that was
we were just cracking it right up when we saw him doing that. And of course his announcement of the winner, Sir Loin, which was probably one of the greatest names for a dancer I've ever heard in my life. But that whole scene was great. I mean, I've always been a sort of a fan of having that sort of a thing happen. Those sort of characters that appear in movies that you don't want to admit that who he is, and you can kind of see the reaction of people's face that who he is, and most people don't want to even admit that they know who that person is, right? But that whole scene was great. I really enjoyed that scene.
I thought it was Pavarotti. Ken, your next favorite scene.
Okay, this scene is probably the obvious scene. Is of course Kiss playing, on stage at the end, because that's all what we want to see is we want to see Kiss on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that, which I thought was cool. Well, what part I didn't like is that the Kiss logo really bothered me, but that's a side point. But the vantage point of shooting out from Gene's tongue.
Oh, that's terrible.
To the crowd.
Oh,
to the crowd. I thought that was kind of funny. I was like, oh, that's kind of crazy. As if camera's right in his mouth, and his tongue is wagging and checking out, seeing the fans out there, getting, having a great time. So I thought that was kind of cool. Just the scene itself, as them playing on stage, is always cool. You can't get anything better than Kiss on stage. So
yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. For however flawed that concert scene, that sequence is in terms of some of the inconsistency, it's still well shot. And to pack all those elements of a Kiss show into that time frame, I mean, it's really a kitchen sink scene, and it does look quite good. So for what it is as a distillation, surrealist, it is fun. Daniel, your next fun scene.
Well, I think when they arrive in Detroit, I think it is one of the cooler scenes after the road trip that Lonnie mentioned. Such a cool road trip. But when they arrive in Detroit and they see the billboard, Kiss playing tonight, it really captures the feel of going to a Kiss concert, gathering up with friends, preparing, the chaos, seeing other fans in makeup, high-fiving people you've never seen before, and get it going, before the concert. So that pre-concert feel, they really managed to capture that. And then of course they realize that the fucking nutcase there, he didn't say the address, so they don't have any tickets. So I think up till then, the movie is real good. After that, it plummets.
All right. My next favorite scene is not really a scene. Let this speak.
Music from the motion picture. Detroit Rock City, in stores now.
The soundtrack.
The soundtrack, yeah.
Absolutely. Throughout the movie, throughout the work print as well. The songs not except for Marilyn Manson. The songs on this soundtrack, the songs throughout the movie, the songs on the work print, you had stuff like Bob O'Reilly, The Who, a whole bunch of songs were considered for this movie, for the
Ramones.
soundtrack. Just a ton of great fucking music. It was fun. It really worked well with the scenes, that you runaways. You've got a little bit of everything from the era, some a little bit off. Yeah, there's a disappointment with 2 songs in particular, or 3, and obviously Surrender was supposed to be the 99 recording, but they went with, I think, the Budokan. But then again, it's more period piece, makes sense. Same with Detroit Rock City 98 was only kept for the movie sequence, not included on the soundtrack, but it is in the movie. And there's like 4 different versions of that. I mean, there's a super long version that was used for timing. There's the kind of the movie version, which has music on one track, Paul on the other, so you get an isolated vocal and none of the FX. Then you have the movie with the FX on top. So there's a bunch of different versions for that final Kiss recording. And obviously the ending sequence song is a little bit of a letdown, but at least it was still, I'm going to say something positive about Nothing Can Keep Me From You. At least it was a new Kiss labeled song for the soundtrack. Was it the Kiss song that we wanted? No, but at least there was something, and that's as positive as I can get on that. So
just real quick, Julian, about the music. I think at times it was a bit too obvious. When he sat on the loo and tried to watch that girl. Then, of course, they play "Meet You in the Ladies' Room." Yeah. It feels so silly. And when
that's all.
I think it's like Gene Simmons saying, "Well, this song works with this scene because it's the same thing." And escaping boarding school. Then they play "Jailbreak." It's so obvious. Teenage girl walking on the sidewalk. Her name is Christine. Christine. 16. It doesn't. No, it doesn't work. And then Jeremiah's mom busts him. No, but it's too much. It's too obvious. You don't do a soundtrack like that when you do a movie. Okay, let's name the girl Christine so we can play Christine 16 when that's the scene that we're going for. I think it's too obvious, too much. It's B movie stuff.
But it is a B movie. Of course, it's going to be like
that. In other movies, actually. The same thing.
No,
Christine 16 from the comments. It's used as a narrative device. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you don't need it. It's too silly.
But the thing is, Dan, you're
too much.
But you're looking at it the wrong way. You're thinking at it from strictly a Kiss fan.
You're looking at it the wrong way.
You're looking at it from a teacher's point of view.
Yeah,
probably. I have a teacher. What the hell am I going to?
Yeah, but for the people that are not diehard Kiss fans, they probably didn't even realize half of the connections to it.
Well, who the hell watched it besides diehard Kiss fans? Since there was like 3 of us.
Us 3 people.
The people that were dragged in with the Kiss.
3 of us.
You need to find a sound that captures the feel. You can't name a character Christine and then have a song called Christine 16 going up. It's too much. It's too silly. It's way off. But that's just me.
That's okay.
Well, you're all wrong, boys.
You're allowed your opinion, but you're wrong.
Yeah.
You're wrong. It has to be something American.
It's good music and it's fun, but there we go.
Too much. Too obvious.
Don't you dare say that to me, Ken. Good
Oh.
All right, let's go around with let's do one more popular or favorite scene from this, because I do want to end with the 98 re-recording remix before we go. So, Lonnie.
It's a silly scene, and you just mentioned it, but the 4 of them standing on the toilet looking over the wall at the girls is very it's funny. It made you laugh in the theater at the first time.
Domino effect.
It's silly. It's a silly scene, but it's funny and it works. So I think I still laugh every time I watch that scene. It's kind of silly, but it's funny.
Thank you, Christine 16. Daniel, read the note, because that explains to you the use of the musical devices. So
go and take some film course, boys and girls.
I've stayed away from that. No, Daniel, your next favorite scene.
Favorite scene? Do I have time for the least favorite scenes? Because I got a lot of them. But favorite scenes, I have to. I like what Lonnie said, but the thing I laughed out loud to when I watched the movie this morning was they watched that girl and she made a lot of fart noises and so on.
Right.
But the way the stalls, like dominoes went ding 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 ding.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Dominoes.
That was domino. They call
You have a
her
problem with that as well?
domino. I don't know what it's about. You can't. Well, we have to talk about film theory another time, but you can't do that if you try to make a great movie. But I think that was a cool scene with the stalls falling over like domino bricks, and I laughed out loud when I saw that one.
All right, Lonnie, did I get you? I can't remember if I started with you.
Yes.
Okay. Mark.
Well, I think the other scene that I thoroughly enjoyed, of course, was the whole scene with the Guido disco guys and them when they were off the side of the road there, and when the young metal guys finally got their revenge there with the kick to the nuts to the guy, and then the best scene is when they all took their belts off and started getting their little weaponry, and they put Iron Man on right when that happened. That was a great use of the song right there, and when they put the buddy's car into the ditch. But the part when they woke up out of there after they got beaten the hell up, and they're all wearing the Kiss makeup on, and they're like, oh no, the fag makeup. And when they saw each other with the Kiss makeup on each other, that there was gold. I mean that whole sequence. You were just hoping that was going to happen, because when they got pulled over and Buddy got his head rammed into the pizza there, it didn't look too good for them at first, but they got their revenge back in there. That scene was good. Again, that was a good use of music, I thought, for that part.
All right, how about you, Ken?
Yeah, I think I agree with Mark on that one. That was a good one. The scene where. And I don't know if they never say whether this is their actual first concert of seeing Kiss or not. But
they missed them 3 years running. So
yeah, that's it. Okay, so it is first time. So it kind of reminded me of the part where the guy's like waving them in, come on into this. They've reached the Holy Grail kind of thing. And it just reminded me of like when I first went in, waiting to finally see Kiss on the Dynasty tour, and going into the Cow Palace through the front doors, and they're just like, "Ooh," you always hear like a humming sound, like "Ooh," It's like, "Oh, this is it. This is it. This is the Church of Kiss," or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That was it. Just reminded me, like, again, just that point is like, I'm finally here. I finally made it. This is it, and then you're just so excited to see them for the first time, and that was like just kind of reminded me of my first time, seeing Kiss. So that was cool.
Should have been playing Elvis's Promised Land.
Promised Land, or what's the other one? American Trilogy. I love that.
There's a few. I think my favorite scene is right before that, and it's where Tripp is vindicated. Tripp, who's been the complete clusterfuck the whole movie. Tripp is the whole reason for the whole movie. And there at the end, his little nemesis, tisk, tisk, tisk. They've beaten the shit out of themselves, and it's like there. And he is vindicated. He gets them into the show through that one. It was probably the only moment of quick thinking in his life. And he pulls it off, and in they go. And I just think that's a marvelous device. It's just, it's full circle. There you go. It's like a happy theatrical thing, that the cause of all your problems is also the solution. Daniel wanted to do negatives.
One or two.
So just one, because Lonnie's got to drop in a few. And Lonnie, just drop whenever you have to. Lonnie, let's start with you. Your least favorite scene in Detroit Rock City?
Least favorite scene is those Kiss tickets getting burned up. Come on, that was terrible.
Oh yeah, but it also says something about tickets back in the day. Now you just download new ones, or you show on the mobile phone.
Yeah, you
back in
can't
the day,
burn
it was real. You know,
anymore.
yeah.
I mean, it was the worst scene for me because it reminded me of my mother saying, "No, you can't go to the Kiss show that's coming in a couple of weeks." So that was the worst scene for me. I never got to see Kiss on the Revenge Shore, Kiss without makeup. That was supposed to. So that was too relatable. So that's my least favorite scene.
Mark, what about you? What's your least favorite scene in this?
Well, I was thinking about that one too, but the other one I thought was kind of just odd, and I was actually surprised that they went there with this scene. Was the whole bit with Shannon Tweed and Ed Furlong in the car? I thought that was a little odd with the whole premature ejaculation scene there. It's like, really, you guys did that in the movie? Like that. I mean, I understand that they wanted to represent the whole, young love with the older woman bit, but that I didn't think they had to go that far with it. I mean, I think we would have got the point without having to go that far with it. But I just thought it was a bit odd, and I was actually surprised that Gene got his woman to do that, to be honest. But
a little extra money.
She's been in more risque things than that. Come on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't much of a stretch, any of that, really. Daniel, you're the one who wanted to do the negative. So what's your biggest negative?
I think the downfall of the movie is the final third, and it has a lot to do with the romantic stuff. It doesn't work at all. Suddenly everyone is getting a girl, like that. And no, it doesn't work like that. We all know that. But I think another scene that I think is so ridiculous and from left field, you don't need it, is actually the frisbee scene. One of the guys is attacked by rabid dogs, and out of nowhere, a small dog appears with a frisbee. He picks up the frisbee, he throws it, and all the angry dogs go after the frisbee. And then he has sort of like tamed the dogs. So then there are two, like grease monkeys who's trying to rape the disco girl. And then he commands the dogs, attack. So like that, he has, got the dogs on his side, and he managed to make them run and attack the grease monkeys, and he liberates the girl, and she's in love with him. It's so fucking silly.
It is the magic of Hollywood.
Yeah, but they didn't need to go down that road. I think the final third of the movie is so awful. It could have been so much better, but scenes like this is so ridiculous. So that's my least favorite scene. So fucking ridiculous. I've never seen anything as ridiculous as that piece of shit scene. What were they thinking?
I think my least favorite part of it is the treatment of the four characters. They're so mindlessly stupid and feral that the screenwriters seem to just take glee in making them look like absolute morons. And I'm like, were we really that bad as teenagers? And maybe it's hitting too close to home. I don't know. I may be triggered in my viewpoint of that, because it really has a pretty negative outlook. Like the scene when Christine gets in the back of the car, and trips attitude towards her. And then again, it's like, maybe we were that bad. Maybe we were. And we just don't like to see it.
Christine is asking you a very important question, Daniel. Who hurt you?
Ken.
You seem very, very crushed by this movie.
My last one would be...
Final third is Catastrophe.
It would only be, I think, I agree with a lot of the ones that you already said, but the Trans Am, I love Trans Am. Back in the 70s, Trans Ams, I love those. That's one of my favorite all-time cars. Anyway, I had a Trans Am actually at one time. But Trans Am, I don't think those owners usually were, or most car drivers listen to disco. I just thought, no, that doesn't fit. That car does not fit disco. I don't know. It kind of just bothered me. I don't know. I just said, nah, I don't think so.
You know what? You're right, Ken. I've known quite a few people who owned Trans Ams. I know guys who own 454 big block Camaros, and not a single one of them that I knew listened to disco. It was either like the Stones or Kiss
rock
or
or
Sab.
hard
It
rock,
was all rock. I've never known a disco driving Trans Am guy or Camaro. Never saw one.
Yeah. Need a different car.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch the credits of the movie?
No, because that fucking song plays.
Marilyn Manson, is that the one? Highway to Hell, or is it Paul completely out of touch adding? What's the name of that song?
Nothing can keep me from puking.
Yeah. Why didn't he record a song like Modern Day Delilah for the credits? That's just crazy.
Or one
So
of the
out of
outtakes
touch.
Like, like
Yep.
you know, like I wanted to rule the world, or just anything.
Yeah,
would have been better
anything.
than that.
Well, because
It's so out of touch.
That's
I want to
Gene's
rule the
song.
world is great. Well, sure. Then just some. You had leftover from Psycho Circus. You could have thrown on there for a new Kiss
Yeah,
song.
Body and Soul was Paul's leftover.
Fine, it's better than that.
Yeah, it actually is.
Yeah, at least it was kind of legitimate and from the air. But again,
And then they end
Armageddon.
after the credits. They show a brief clip of that kid saying, "Kiss sucks." I think that was kind of cool.
I like that kid.
Yeah.
That kid's spunky. So
I would have beaten him.
Little kids wouldn't have said Kiss. They're the ones that would like Kiss back then. Little kids. But anyway.
Yeah, that was the demographic. The next year with Dynasty, that kid would have been front and center.
Yeah,
that was the audience that
the
poor
disco
Kiss
song
would have been looking out at when Kiss went disco and drove their Trans Ams, playing
No Trans Ams.
playing the. I mean, it was all over by that point. So, all right. That's it. We're leaving this at an hour-long episode today because if we don't, we'll start fixating on some of the negatives about Detroit Rock City. But you know what? Get out your DVD. I don't know if it's online and you're able to watch it. You know, dig out your VHS. Give it a spin because, again, Kiss at least tried. It may not have worked. You know, 3 people in the cinema for Lonnie, and they probably had fallen asleep during the previous movie and were there by accident rather than willingly. You know, they at least, you know, took a chance and it didn't work out, but it's
not
still
terrible.
Part of history. It's not terrible.
No.
It's pretty awful.
Yeah, but it's decent.
Gonna end today
$5
with a remix of Detroit Rock City. This one's built from stems generated from the 2-track multi-track, which is obviously Paul's isolated vocals and the musical backing track. I'd like to take it a little bit deeper and try and get back, but I don't think they recorded it very hi-fi. So final 4.5 minutes, Detroit Rock City, 1998, but from Daniel, Lonnie, Ken, Mark, and myself, thanks for joining us, and we shall see you next time. Now, Mark, what do you think of that musically?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, I thought the recording of it was pretty well done. You know, it was interesting that those little gaps that they left in between for like the part where he threw the drumstick out. You know how they left that little space in the music. That was cool.
Yeah, it's longer on the other version. Again, there's one that with a longer ending section for the timing. That one's closer to. I don't think it's identical to the movie version. Obviously, it doesn't have Paul's vocal overdubs, and it also obviously doesn't have the explosions and kabooms.
I got a question though. Who was doing the harmony vocal? It doesn't sound like Gene. That high voice sounded like could it have been Eric Singer possibly or somebody else like that?
I don't know, and I don't know any of the details on the actual technical recording of that.
That didn't sound like Gene at all.
No, and again, some of the elements get enhanced because when I pull stems out of these using AI, I then run them through. Well, I didn't run this through any filters in terms of instrument patching. They just go through EQ patches or a little bit of reverb. It's just glorified remastering rather than remixing, other than having the isolated vocal available. And I only put a hint of reverb on Paul's vocal, didn't do anything else on it in terms of enhancing it. So I can't tell. I just think the drums sound a lot better there than was the case with the movie version, and a lot of the criticisms of Peter Criss in the period. I don't hear anything egregious musically from the band, other than it's a rough and ready recording. That's not a full, a full analog treatment on 2-inch tape necessarily. That's a go into a rehearsal studio with a 4 or 8, probably an 8-track, and just grab the basic elements. You can hear the great thing about the Paul vocal is you can actually hear his breathing pattern on the isolated track. So you can hear him. And also some false starts when he starts to go and holds himself back. So it's a very flawed recording. Fun shit. That's what I love. Even something from 1998 excites me like that. So that's why I wanted to play it today. All right. Any thoughts, Ken, Daniel, before we go?
None.
No, it's a decent movie. 2/3 is really good, and then it goes off the tracks. But go and watch it.
Yeah, there we go. So go and watch it. We'll see you soon. Take care. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.